Hello, everyone. I am Brandon, and I am here to welcome you all here to the Tansson Talk Show, where, of course, our mission here is to help bring people together. I'm really excited to get, you know, I'm very excited to always do this show, and I can't wait to get into this episode. But without further ado, please allow me to introduce my guest here for today, Katelyn Meeks. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me on. It's always a great opportunity.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you on. And so, first of all, how are you doing here today?
I'm doing pretty good, just kind of survive. It's a Monday. It's kind of a rainy Monday, but I'm getting through it.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're getting through it. And so, before we go ahead and get started for today, if you're able to introduce yourself for the watching or listening audience.
Of course. So I'm Katelyn Meeks. I am a junior at Ashland University, and I am double majoring, yes, double majoring, in public relations and also digital media journalism. On campus, I'm heavily involved. I don't have any free time whatsoever, but I'm involved with the college newspaper, the Collegian, where I act as the managing editor. I am president of our PRSSA chapter here at the university. I'm also part of College Republicans as the vice president and an Ashbrook Scholar on campus.
Wow, well, that certainly is a lot. And
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
and yeah, like to add on to what you're saying, I don't know how you even have time to even do this here today.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. What I like to say is you make time for the things you want to do or the things you want to be involved with.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm so glad that, like I said, you made time to be here today. And so, yeah, I'm just so excited to get into this discussion.
I'm ready for it.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start off by saying since you're now a junior at Ashland College, so how has everything been for you thus far this semester?
This semester, it was definitely an interesting start off to the semester, but especially since stepping up into a leadership position, being managing editor of a newspaper, which seems like a daunting task to start out with. But over time, you kind of get the hang and kind of like the flow of things and everything. But this semester definitely was not a normal start at all because at the beginning, our faculty advisor of the paper was asked to leave the university. And so we had no paper advisor for a little bit in charge of our college newspaper. And we were just kind of like scrambling and like, well, why did this happen? And we were always just second guessing ourselves the entire time. And I think that was a struggle when you come back into things and writing for a paper and you notice morale is down with your staff and you're just facing one challenge after the next. But over time, as we've gotten more into the swing of things, kind of again on the paper side, it's really picked up and got going. And I think the semester is definitely going better now at this point because of that.
Well, I'm glad at least that you all were able to like start getting your morale back up, but
Yeah.
that certainly is a interesting shakeup for
Oh,
the start of
yeah.
the semester.
Oh, it is. Definitely
Yeah.
one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah, and how far into the semester was it that you all even found out about the shakeup?
Actually, classes had not even started yet. It was 2 weeks. We come back 2 weeks early to school, and we put together this thing called the orientation issue of the paper. And I was coming back, and then, gone. Like, it just happened within that first 2 weeks we were coming back. We were really working on the paper, grinding. Things were going great. And then you have this big shift, especially in your advisor of the paper, someone you look up to, you look for direction and things like that, gone.
Wow. Well, that certainly is one way to get reoriented to to the academic year.
Oh, yeah.
Well, overall, like I guess how did you first find out about Ashland University? And I know, of course, this is now your third year, but is this always where you wanted to go?
Ooh, this is a. I love when I always get asked the question, "Oh, how did you find Ashland University?" Because that's like just a whole big like long story. Or you know how every college student gets like used to just preaching like their sad story about how they chose their university. Well, so Ashland originally was not on my radar at first. Like I had no clue about the school at all, and I was a senior in high school, and I applied to two other schools, and I got like rejected from them. I'm like, what am I gonna do? So, as a normal high schooler is, I started panicking. I'm like, I'm not going to I'm not going to go to college. I don't know what I'm going to do, blah, blah, blah. So then my science teacher in high school told me about Ashland University. And I was like, okay, I'm running out of options at this point. I really need to go look at the school. So I went, I looked, and I was just sitting, I think, it was in the admissions office, and I saw this pamphlet for, it's called the Ashford Scholars Program. They're a program that's very big into like history and politics. I'm like, I love that stuff. That's great. I just eat that up all day. So I ended up interviewing with them, kind of meeting with them, and I really enjoyed it and I liked it. And I'm just like, I think I'm going to take a risk and I'm going to go to school here. Not knowing much about the school or not really knowing what I want to do. So yeah, that's kind of how I found my way.
Wow. And were you originally located like anywhere near the university?
Now, I live about 2.5 hours away from Ashland University.
Wow. And so how was it for you, like, first adjusting to the college atmosphere leaving from high school? And did you know which career path you wanted to go on?
That's a tough one too, because so during orientation, before classes, anything had even started, I ended up picking up the journalism major on top of it. I had the PR major, and then the head of the department, he was like, convinced me, he's like, oh, you should do this. It fits well with your major. You should try it. I was like, okay, I guess, just tack on another major. What's a few more classes to that load? So I added it on, and I kind of didn't really fully know what I wanted to do. I mean, I always been the person that's like, the media, no, not for me. And then I think over time, just doing it, being involved in it, I found a kind of a little bit of a love for it, just being involved and really doing it.
Well, that's really cool that you're able to like fall in love with it. And I feel like that's like the passions that like you dream
Mm
for. Like one
hmm.
that
Mm
like it's not forced to you, but
hmm.
it's
Mm hmm.
one where it's just like, I kind of like this. I might stick
Yeah.
with it.
Mm hmm.
Yeah. And so for you, like how long did it take for you to really get adjusted to the college atmosphere and like moving into it all?
I would definitely say that didn't take me too much time at all. I think with colleges, it's definitely different than high school. Like you're in high school. High schools are more like these are your friends for a short time. They're not those impactful relationships like you find elsewhere. I think with college, I found like the people I get along with, and I found the things I love to do and I enjoy, which is totally different. And when you find those things you love to do and enjoy, it definitely makes your time well spent, and you just know you're spending your time well and in a meaningful, productive way.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, and I guess for you getting involved, like when did you first start getting involved in, yeah, I guess in your university, whether it was with the organizations you're a part of now
Mm-hmm.
or if it was something completely different?
So I kind of first got my foot in the door right fall semester of that freshman year. I mean, I actually tried out for our college television station as talent. So I first did talent work for a whole semester, and I was like, I am not writing for the college newspaper. There's no way you're gonna see me there writing stories for the paper. So the way I got into that was there was an opening for a position for social media manager at the paper, and I was like, I like social media. Who doesn't? And I said I'll apply for it. So I applied and I got it. I'm in the paper as a new staff person, but I'm in like basically on the board of the paper, brand new, which is kind of cool. So I started writing, and my first stories were not the best, but I was like, I'll still keep going. And then I started doing it more, and I was like, yeah, I really like this. I really don't mind doing this at all. So with some of the other things on campus outside of kind of like the college media, I just kind of got involved with those groups because people, we like to kind of align ourselves with like similar people with beliefs and values in those same systems, but also kind of to be around to have certain discussions on topics that we also enjoy. So you kind of need some like professional activities and some like fun activities is kind of how I look at it, to have that healthy balance in life.
Yeah, that is so true. And it's one of those things where it's just like college is the time for you
Mm-hmm.
to like explore like your surroundings, but
Mm-hmm.
also like the bounds around you.
Oh
And
yeah.
so it's just like, why not? I
Yeah.
mean, you have all this time anyway.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and I think you mentioned earlier that like during the orientation, like sitting outside the admissions office, that like
Mm-hmm.
you had found out about, I believe, like a scholarship or scholars program
Yeah,
for
yeah,
like
yeah.
history and politics. So are
Yeah,
you able to speak more about that?
of course. So it's called the Ashford Scholars Program, and what their big belief system is studying like core documents, like reading the Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, and like studying from a historical perspective in those documents. So I've always been a pretty big fan of history. I was in high school, whatever, and I was just like, this can only add to my life and help benefit me. So what's really cool about this program is it's actually given me a lot of opportunity in media too. I've had a few internships that have actually related to it. Like last summer I went to Washington D.C. for an internship out of all things. And having that Ashbrook part, like scholars part of me, where I get to read all this like political stuff, it only enhances my career. It actually helps my opportunities a little bit. And I also get to meet some pretty cool people. We've had some like pretty big speakers come to our school and talk about different politics or different situations.
That is amazing. And yeah, even for me, like as someone who like loves media and research,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like I I don't know, I feel like my best subjects, especially like, elementary school through high
Yeah.
school had always been the histories and the social
Mm-hmm.
sciences, but
Mm-hmm.
especially like the government, the civics
Oh
and
yeah.
history. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like those ones have always been like I don't know, the ones I've always done the best at.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really fun that you're able to explore a different avenue, even one that you may not want to do a career for it per se,
Yes.
but still exploring it and
Mm-hmm.
getting to know it better.
And I think that's the best part about college too. You get to explore all these different avenues of things that you might really want to do in the future. It's the best time to do it.
Yeah, and so I guess continuing with that though, like I know that you mentioned that you were the social media person
Mm-hmm.
for the newspaper, and so how was and so I know you mentioned at first that like you had no interest of wanting to write for the paper at
Mm-hmm.
all, and so how long did it take you to figure out that your role would require you to at least dive into that a little?
It didn't take me long. It was kind of like forced upon me. It was like you gotta write, and I was like, okay. So when you're forced to write, you don't always want to do it. It's kind of like homework or chores or whatever. But over time, I kind of realized something that stories can have an impact, and they can cause change. And I was like, people are reading my work. I should not take that lightly. And it was a way to put myself out there and kind of grow in a whole new way. Because growing up, I was definitely not a good writer, but writing for the paper improved it. And over time, I just kind of kept going with it. I was like, the stories got a little tougher, got a little more challenging, did a little different bit of different things. And I think that's where I've really grown the most is in my writing because writing has such an impact. And I think we really forget that. And by writing for the paper, I've definitely realized that more over time by me forcing myself to do it.
Yeah, and I like what you said though about like stories having an impact, and it
Mm-hmm.
is so true.
Mm-hmm.
And especially like for you entering on the digital side, and well,
Oh
I guess the
yes.
part of your double major for being
Mm-hmm.
digital media journalism.
Yes.
And so, out of curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
did you writing the articles, or did you picking the your second part of your major for digital media journalism come first?
So the major kind of came first. I chose the major, and the chair of the department was kind of convincing me, like, he's like, oh, you should do journalism. You have more of this PR background, the writing. I was like, okay, I guess I can do that. I mean, I was kind of like, I'll try it. And so the major really came first. The paper was kind of something I was more pushed into, I guess I would be the best word for it. I had no interest in doing it, but I think over time by being involved in doing it, kind of being forced to write that first story, you realize, wow, your stories do have an impact.
Yeah, and from doing the talent work for the TV station that
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned beforehand, did
Mm-hmm.
you only do it for that one semester, and did any of that experience help you in the long run?
Yeah, so I'm still actually doing that, which I have so much free time and just nothing to do ever, but I still do it and I still love it. And I'm always trying to improve in that area. So for example, I start out doing news breaks, which is just 3 minutes, three stories, quick, like here's today's updates. So I did that for my freshman and sophomore years. And this year they had so much talent try out. They're like, well, we know Katelyn's busy and she can't. I was like, okay. So then I was like, I still want to do television. So I always like to think, what's the best way I can still be involved with something while doing my other thing? So what I did is I created something called the Collegian Update, where it's just me straight to camera, basically giving our top stories of this week on camera on television.
That is amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm sure now you coming onto a podcast, I mean, you're a pro at this now.
I guess I don't know. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm certainly, like I said, enjoying the beginning of this
Mhm.
conversation. And
Mhm.
so I guess continuing with it, like when did you start getting involved in some of these other organizations that you're now involved in?
Yeah, so freshman year with college Republicans, I know people are like, "Oh my gosh, gross, the college organization political organizations on campus." No. I think they're great to be a part of, even if you're not like super political or anything. It's a great way for one, you to kind of like talk to people with like similar interests. Two is great for networking. I have found out there is so much opportunity in like the government and organizations for like any major you possibly are. Like you could be a major in just something that's like the opposite of what I do and still find something to do in the government. That's the crazy part about it. And also what's really fun is we still do group like activities with like the college dems or something, and we still get to interact with those people. We have debates with them, we get to talk to them. I think that's a great lesson in like when you disagree with somebody, take time to understand their side or their argument or and have a discussion about it. There shouldn't be any of this like screaming and yelling back and forth about anything. That's really the college Republicans part of it. And I've always loved being involved in the political process. That's kind of just it's part of who I am a little bit.
I love that. And like I said, and I love what you're saying too about, just speaking about it too.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's one thing to, I mean, to say something, another thing to do something about it.
Yeah.
And I like that you're working to get involved. And I mean, I'm sure it really is a great networking opportunity for
Mm-hmm.
you to meet people, and, you never know who you're going to meet.
Oh yeah, that's the best part about college. Like I still meet people to this day I've never met before. And they're like, "Oh, we're the same grade. I never met you yet." But then I meet them I'm like, "Oh, I did not know that you even went here."
Yeah, that always is, yeah, so fun to do that.
Mhm.
And yeah, and I know that you're also involved within your PRSSA chapter. I
Oh
believe you
yes.
mentioned,
Mhm.
you run the chapter
Oh
actually.
yeah, I do that too. Besides running a whole newspaper, I also have to run something else too because of my infinite amounts of free time. But no, I also love PRSSA also. Like it's opened so many doors for me. Like last spring, I got to go to their like leadership assembly out in Arizona. It was so awesome. It was so fun. I had a great time. I met so many people there. I even met some people that were like journalism majors who were just like talking about like the same like what is similar like PR and what similar about journalism. We're just kind of talking about our experience of both. It was really fun.
That is so cool that you were able to, to go to that event.
Hmm.
And how was it?
Oh, it was beautiful. Arizona, if you get the chance to go out there, take it. That's the biggest thing. I would definitely say the speakers were amazing. There was one, I think his name was Ray Day, and he was kind of talking about how all the mentors in his life taught him different lessons and different things, which I just thought that really resonated with me because when you're in like a media profession, you're going to have a lot of mentors along the way that are helping you to achieve your goals. And I kind of sat back there and I thought about some of my mentors and kind of the lessons I learned along the way too.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's just so important, and especially like how you mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like there's so many people who help you alongside your
Mm-hmm.
personal and professional process.
Mm-hmm.
But then I feel like even beyond the ones that like come to mind immediately, like you have so many people who you may have only even interacted with them once, but
Mm-hmm.
the impression they left on you just truly resonated with you and stayed a
Mm-hmm.
part of you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that's so great that you were able to to attend the event in Arizona. Was that your first time visiting Arizona?
Yeah, it was my first time. I mean, Arizona is just like it was so dry there. Like I'm used to like the Ohio weather here, like it being either like hot and humid or just being like flat out cold. But Arizona was just like that nice temperature, in my opinion. Just that nice dry heat. I kind of loved it a little bit.
That's pretty cool. And was that event the only major event that you have attended elsewhere? Have you attended some other events as well?
Yeah, so back to my freshman year, when I first got here and I kind of went into PRSSA, I went to another event actually in Cleveland, Ohio, where it's just like a little networking thing, and I just met a few people from some other chapters and things like that. So definitely more low key than this one, I would say, but still a great opportunity either way. Even with connecting with people locally, like in the same region or area as you, is always great.
Yeah, that really is.
Hmm.
And I know like for myself, like I guess for me, because I'm also involved within PRSSA for my chapter, is
Hmm.
that last year I had the pleasure of attending their international conference Icon in Texas, and so like it was so fun being able to meet like so many people, and it's one of those things where it's just like as a college student, it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, I never thought I would meet this many like connections and people I'd be able to just meet with and connect with. Not
Mm-hmm.
that, I don't know. It's like it was hard to describe, but it's just like a really great opportunity that
Mm-hmm.
I never would have imagined or sought
Mm-hmm.
out.
Yeah, so like just connecting with other people in general. Like when I went to DC this summer, there was so many people I just met, and like my LinkedIn was like blowing up like every day, like left or I'm like I'm just meeting so many young people my age, and that's the craziest thing about it is during your college experience, you just meet so many people you never thought you would meet, which I think is like the best thing ever. So I'm like, man, I would have never met these people any other way.
Yeah, that really is true, and I mean it's actually true hosting this podcast as
Mm-hmm.
well. But yeah, but how was your trip to DC, and so what were you doing during your time there this summer?
So in DC, I did a internship, which was crazy because every hungry college student that wants to get to the government doing an internship in DC. I mean, it's the best place to be. Now, a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're going to work." I actually worked for one of the think tanks there in DC, and what I actually did was a lot of like video and podcast editing. That's what I did my whole summer. So what I did is, those lovely, fun little reels you see on Instagram. I edited some of those. I also edited tons of podcasts. I actually fell in love with like podcast editing. I would just sit there. I don't know why. Weirdest like therapeutic thing I've ever did. I'm like, people's voices are so annoying, but it's also when you like compress it and you like tidy it up, it's like, oh wow, this sounds so beautiful at the end of it. But it was like one of the best experiences I've ever had.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, how cool was that though? And did you have any like experience with any of this stuff prior to that?
Actually, no. I didn't have any. I was walking in like I had very little of Premiere Pro. I had nothing of Adobe Audition. So I'm walking in like I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, you're gonna trust me to like put your these podcasts in your hands and all these videos? And they did. And actually, the best way to learn stuff is just literally to be forced to do it. And you're just told, like, hey, you got to do this. And you struggle. But that's the best way to grow is struggling through a process. And I think I grew so much this summer for having to struggle to edit these videos and edit these podcasts.
And out of curiosity, what would you say is like been your favorite part of that whole process?
I would definitely say when you're like finished and you get to sit back and you get to watch your work because that's like the best feeling ever. I remember I had this one video this summer and I was just struggling. My supervisor kept nitpicking it like it was like seconds. He was like nitpicking seconds of it. And reels are what, a minute long, nitpicking seconds of it. And I was just so annoyed. But you know what? Once I finally got it done and it was perfection, I just felt so proud of myself. I'm like, wow, that video was so perfect because I put a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy into that and made sure it was the best thing it could be. So that was the best part is looking at the finished project of something you just made from like nothing pretty much.
Yeah, and I completely like agree with you for that. And it's one of those things too where it's just like sometimes you just have such an amazing
Mm-hmm.
discussion and then it's just the matter of the long and sometimes very tedious process of
Mm-hmm.
editing it, making
Oh
sure it
yeah.
goes right, hoping and praying that there's no technical difficulties. And but
Mm-hmm.
when you finally have the end product,
Yeah.
it's so amazing. And especially like what you're saying with
Mm-hmm.
the reels and everything. I
Yeah.
think I don't know if you've had the same experience, but I
Mm-hmm.
know, like, I think the hardest part about that is trying to put something into like a minute or less because,
Oh
like,
yeah.
it's like I feel like the best stuff are like 3 minutes long. So trying to
Mm-hmm.
compress that.
Yeah, I would definitely say that's a huge challenge is putting things in a minute. And it made me show how sad like the human attention span has gotten, but that's a tough challenge. But when you come from a like journalism background, it actually helped me a little bit because you kind of know how to condense enough information into something. You know how to simplify it. That's kind of how I looked at it. I'm like, okay, what's the important things from this video that I need to condense it down? I remember one video I got, it was like this like 9 minute thing. I had to cut it down to a minute. That was horrible. I'm like, a minute? I mean, this guy's like rambling on for 9. How am I going to cut it down to a minute? And I did. But I mean, it's a lot about what you have to look at what's not important, what's the most captivating, what gets the general idea and point across. And that's kind of the whole idea of a reel.
Yeah, it really is. And yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like, like you're saying, that you did it based off like your journalism background and knowing the importance of, okay, what is the main part of this and what can you do without? And yeah, and I mean, I think that's just so important. And like you were saying, like this is what the human attention span has gotten to.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean, gotta only have our like 38-second reels or something like that too. I mean, we can only watch that animal or something fall down so many times or whatever it may be. But I think even myself, I noticed that. Like when I would edit those, I'd be like, wow, my attention span so short. And you put out all this video time into this video, and your attention span has to be a lot to make that video. That's why I think is like the funniest part about that whole process.
Yeah, I mean, it truly is a bit ironic with
Yeah.
that. But what would you say, like, out of all of the different organizations, yeah, clubs, academics, and everything, what would you say is like has been your favorite part of college thus far?
My favorite part of college, I would definitely say all the little small moments. Everybody's like, oh, it's friendship, it's all this academic. Yeah, no, it's these little moments that kind of add up into the whole bigger grand scheme of things. Like from the littlest thing your friend does for you, or the moments when you felt like defeated and you can't do anything anymore. All those add up and really paint the full picture. And honestly, at the end of the day, will make you a better person. It just will. And looking back and reflecting at those moments definitely has made me stronger in the long run, I would say.
I love that. And out of curiosity, like I know that you are, yeah, very committed to all of your like amazing
Mm-hmm.
organizations now, and yeah, very involved. But were you always like this?
Yeah, pretty much this day, even in high school, I was like involved with everything. And I just said to myself, I don't want to be that kid that's just stuck in their dorm room, not contributing, not enjoying that full college experience. I said, I want to be involved. I want to connect. I want to have community. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think, especially my class, because I was a 2021 high school graduate, but we had that kind of COVID effect. Like people didn't want to do anything, but I was like one of those. I'm like, I want to do some stuff. I want to be involved. I really want to get to know the campus, and I really love Ashley because there's so much to do here. And I think that's the best part of it.
I love that. And what would you say is something, yeah, that you've learned from your time here that, yeah, I don't know, that really stands out to you now?
I would definitely say the biggest thing I've learned is to struggle. I think when we go to the end of the day, we don't like struggling. We're people that like to be not to struggle over anything. But that's the best part of my, especially my journalism major. I have to struggle over writing a story, and then I learn. I put all the pieces together, and then I feel so accomplished at the end of the day by doing that because I'm like, wow, I learned so much from struggling. Like with the video or podcast editing, struggling to edit that, it taught me a lot. I grew a lot as a person and an individual because I had to struggle for it. Even in classes I don't enjoy taking, like, those just generic core classes. Sometimes they're tough and you struggle, but that struggle is worth it. You learn so much from it. You learn so much about yourself. You learn that you can do it. You just have to put your mind to it. And I think that's the biggest thing we forget sometimes is sometimes people shrug off like, oh, I can't write or oh, I can't. No, you can. You just have to take the time to learn how to do it and struggle.
Yeah, and I so agree with that because yeah, I feel like that's like you said, that's how we learn.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things where I was thinking the other day, it's just
Mm-hmm.
like as controversial as it is, it's like success is boring.
Oh yeah, it is. I mean, I think we get so used to putting ourselves on all these high and mighty thrones supposed to be accomplish one thing, but I'm just always like, no, I still got more to accomplish. I got more to do. I'm not perfect in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just so true. And yeah, outside of just, like I said, your academics and your
Hmm.
involvement, what do you enjoy doing outside of that in the moments of free time that you do have?
Oh man, I love like spending time with my friends. Just sometimes just sitting around, watching a TV show, mindlessly doing nothing. Sometimes that's the best, and you gotta get that time when you can. It's the best. Or sometimes just those late night random drives with friends too, because you never know where those take you. I think definitely spending time with friends outside of it helps a lot because friendships are what matters most at the end of the day, and those should be a priority in your time here at college and in life in general.
Yeah, that is so true.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's like spending those moments that you
Hmm.
do have. And And I like that despite how busy you are, that you do like work to prioritize that.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing is people in college are like, I'm too busy for this, I'm too busy for that. I always like to tell people, I'm like, no, it's how you prioritize it. Like, if you want to sit on your phone for an hour, then you sit on your phone for an hour because you made that a priority in your life.
Yeah, that is so true. And it's one of those things where it's like I always feel like there's a nice mixture and middle
Mm-hmm.
ground to everything.
Yes.
Where it's just like truly like there are some things where it's just like, yes, I am quite busy, like,
Yeah.
but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time though, it's where I think you would at least put in the effort for the stuff
Mm-hmm.
that you really want to do. Even if
Yeah.
you can't work out the exact opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
at least like, okay, well thank you so much, for your
Mm-hmm.
consideration and
Mm-hmm.
please keep me posted for the next one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the biggest thing is how do people are able to prioritize those things, I think is definitely the biggest factor in all that. Because again, you could sit on that phone for an hour, but you could have written your paper. I don't know, whatever it might be. But also taking time for yourself. That's another big thing too in all this because you have to, or you would lose your mind.
Yes, that is so true. And would you say that you've been able to have this balance throughout your college journey thus far?
I would say at times it's been a struggle because you're a student and you're stressed out and you got all this to do and there's a lot of pressure. I think it's just you have to know yourself when you're like, okay, this is my limit. I can't go above that. That's the biggest thing with me is people are like, oh, you're this go-getter and all this. I'm like, yeah, I am, but also I know when my limits are to certain things. Like I can't handle like doing a bunch of maybe stories this week. Maybe I need to take a step back. Maybe I need to give this to something else, like delegating tasks to other things because you're not superhuman and you cannot do everything.
Yes, that is so true. And I know, like, one of the, I guess, struggles of college, so to speak, is that, like, I feel like there's so many opportunities out there,
Oh
but
yeah.
it's knowing which ones do you think you can feasibly do without
Mm-hmm.
sacrificing not just quality, but also
Yeah.
your own personal fulfillment,
Oh
too.
yeah. That's the biggest thing is choose activities wisely. I would definitely say is the biggest piece of advice for me because like having that one professional activity, like I have to say, having the other activities you just enjoy doing with friends or networking or whatever maybe to benefit you. But having those balancing activities too can also help kind of expand your horizons a little bit and develop unique friendships in each of those.
Yeah, that is so true, and I completely agree with that. And
Mm-hmm.
out of curiosity, I know that, while you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
the organizations that you are a part of,
Mm-hmm.
how'd you get to the leadership positions for each of them?
Oh wow, okay. So with the paper, again, started out as a social media manager spring of freshman year. Next year, they're like, oh, Katelyn, you are so good at the news. I was like, okay. So I became news editor for a whole year. And I think the biggest thing was during news editor, I just would always like do my job, kind of prove myself, really worked with a lot of people, make sure the stories were better. And they kind of like, apparently I was the right choice for managing another paper. I don't know why, but apparently I was. So here I am today as managing another paper. And then with PRSSA, that's a whole little different thing. It's kind of like you're the last one and you're the oldest. So what happened was freshman year, there was some other girls that were involved with it and everything else, but graduating and they didn't really have an interest. So I took over. And then over time, we've gotten a few more people back, but that one's been more of a work in progress, I would definitely say, in the long run of things. With the other organizations that I'm a part of, like College Republicans, I'm vice president of that now. That was more just I served as somehow I got to be secretary last year. I think no one was willing to do it, and I just somehow raised my hand, and oh, she can do it. So I got that, and then the next year they're like, oh, Caitlin's been here for a pretty good amount of time, so VP, and then that's how I ended up as vice president of College Republicans. Just kind of through luck on that one.
Would you ever have imagined that this is where you would, be before you finish, is this where you imagined back when you were in high school that this is where you would be in junior year?
No, definitely not. I definitely did not see myself as running a college newspaper because I had no interest in writing. And I was like, no, you're not going to run a college newspaper. What? And I definitely didn't see myself. I didn't know what PRSSA is. Not leading a whole chapter of it at a university. Definitely didn't see myself doing that. With college Republicans, probably not either. Stepping into leadership roles is daunting. I mean, just straight out daunting because you have to step up in a big way. People look to you, people look for guidance to you, and it's a lot of pressure at times, but it's very fulfilling and rewarding. People are looking up to you. That's amazing and great. People admire you for something, and you also get to help other people in the clubs or organizations kind of help finding their ropes and finding their footing too.
Yeah, I mean that is so true, and like I love how you were saying that like people do like look up to you all,
Mm-hmm.
and I like that you are working to like set an example,
Mm-hmm.
and like you said, doing what you can and enjoying the process,
Mm-hmm.
but also like like I said, not overextending yourself either.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing about it, not overextending yourself. But being able to guide others is the most rewarding gift ever. You can also learn a lot about yourself from doing that with others. Example would be like help when I was news editor, helping other people's write. I loved doing that. Helping people fix their work and making sure it was the best it could be was rewarding, and people should feel proud of that. People felt proud of their writing then because I was able to help them fix it, and they got a little bit better each and every time. That was the like best thing ever.
I really like that you're able to, like I said, to take the time to, yeah, help show others, yeah, how they can improve and working with others as
Mm-hmm.
well. Because, like you said, I mean, I think it's just so rewarding being able to pass on your knowledge
Mm-hmm.
to, yeah, to people who are also in the same steps that you were in.
Mm-hmm. And I think we sometimes forget that in positions of leadership. We don't like to help others, but helping others is actually helping you in a big way because you're showing you are a leader. A leader doesn't leave people behind. A leader is not someone above you. A leader helps. A leader guides. That's we look at leadership as this like managerial boss sort of structure, like you're a boss towards them. No, it's not. You're helping guide. You're helping learn the ropes with them along with you doing that too.
Yeah, because I truly believe like it's where, you know, you continue to work and people will
Mm-hmm.
help guide you. And then
Mm-hmm.
when you get there and actually throughout your process, you're helping others do the same thing.
Oh yeah.
And what would you say, like, like, are some of your goals and aspirations, like, for continuing on for the remainder of 2023 and the remainder of your junior year?
Definitely say I want the paper to improve overall. I think we have a great team of individuals working here on the paper at Ashland. I would really want us to see some of us do some bigger stories, do some bigger works, bigger pieces that really add and benefit to the paper overall. Definitely want to see us to enter more competitions. I want to show that we are a great, amazing paper, and I think the best way to do that through a little competition. Who doesn't like a little competition? It just shows you're great. You're like the best of the best, and you can stack up to with those others. Some other things I would like to see is like with PRSSA. I want to see our chapter grow. I mean, we're a little chapter. We're struggling, and got to struggle in there, but definitely would love to see it grow a little more. So we have some more students that are willing to step up in the future. Because again, I can't lead it forever. I can't be in charge forever. So someone's got to take on and like learn the ropes. For me personally, I would definitely say I just want to grow as a person and grow to my fullest potential. I That's the goal I set for myself pretty much every year in school. How do I grow a little more? How do I become a better person? How do I grow in a little bit of like wisdom and knowledge alongside all that?
I love that. And yeah, and I guess with your senior year, I mean, less than a year away now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so what are your, do you have any major plans for, yeah, for next year and even after you graduate?
Well, next year I'm going to be writing a thesis because, as part of the Ashbrook Scholars requirement, you have to write a thesis. So I'm still trying to pick a topic for that, struggling over that a little bit because you got to want it to be something you're like passionate about a lot in order to write that. Because if you're not passionate about writing, 60 pages on whatever it is, then I don't know what the point of doing that was then. So that's definitely the biggest challenge next year is getting through that thesis, I would say. After that, career plans. I definitely want to kind of try more of maybe the corporate side of things actually in corporate media. Writing for that. I mean, I love journalism and as much as I do, but I kind of also like that competitiveness a little bit to me and being a leader and stepping up into leadership positions. And I think that would be a good fit for me at times. So, but you never know where life is going to take you. Sometimes you have to be open to every opportunity.
Yeah, I completely agree with that and understand that because I feel like some of the best opportunities come to you when you're least expecting them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and something I guess I did want to hit on too, as you know, before we begin, like I said, wrapping up and going to other thoughts is that you mentioned too that prior to entering into college that you weren't familiar with PRSSA. So out of curiosity, how did you find out about the organization and join a part of it?
This is a good story. So here on campus, I didn't know anything about it. It just happened kind of like by a fluke on a post on Instagram of this, because our PRSSA account did not have that big of a following, and they had this meeting one night, and I was like, I guess I'll show up and attend, and I have this PR major, might as well, right? And so I showed up, and no one was there. I was like, is this the place? I don't know what's going on. Well, it was, and then they met me, and I said, yeah, I'm Katelyn, I'm a freshman. They were just so shocked I even showed up. I was like, because I saw this like one little flyer thing, and that's how I kind of first found out about it. I didn't even know what it was, but then over time I got a little more involved and eventually definitely figured out what it was.
I love that. And, I feel like sometimes it's just like the little things that we do and like find out about. And like, I know for me in joining, like, I had like attended a couple different meetings. It was like extra credit if you attend.
Yeah.
And I attended the meetings online because it was 2020 and going into 2021. But like, I don't know, nothing really stood out to me. Not that like I was for it or against it, more so like, oh, this is a really cool event. It didn't fully hit me that's like, oh, this is an organization I can join. It was just like, oh, this is a really cool meeting with a guest speaker. And so I think it was the end of 2021. Like I had been asked to join an internship panel, and so I had declined it like twice, but I eventually was convinced to do it. But like I ended up joining as an official member like 2 months later in January, and so 3 months. But I mean, it's one of those things too where I just feel like the college experience and atmosphere really pushes people to really like bring out the best versions of themselves.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It's all about pushing yourself and putting yourself out there. I think with the PRSSA thing, like I just showed up to this meeting not knowing anyone or anything, and that's how I got involved. Or even with other activities on campus, just showing up makes a world of difference. That's another great piece of advice. Just show up to things, and you'll learn if you'll figure out if you like it or not.
Yeah, that truly is like just such a great piece of advice. And like I said, this has been like such a fun conversation. I've really been like enjoying it.
Ah, no problem.
Yeah, and I guess like I said, as we begin wrapping up, I did want to say, were there any other things that you really wanted to mention, or even questions for me?
Ooh, I mean, I don't know why about you. I got to hear a little bit more. So tell me a little about it. You said you're in a grad program. Is that correct?
Yes, I am a graduate student, I guess now in my second year, technically, studying lifespan and digital communication.
Oh, digital. So you're more on kind of the technical side of things?
Sort of. And so, like, for me, our master's program is really interesting because I feel like it has a hybrid focus in both relational communication across the lifespan. So as we like studying the way that we communicate throughout our lives, but then also the digital media that we consume.
Wow, that's actually interesting. So what's your favorite kind of part of like looking at how much media we can consume?
I really like television, and so like my undergrad degree was actually in media studies.
Okay.
And so I originally went into the master's program to actually focus more on the lifespan communication part, but sort of the media studies part really got to me first. And so like I don't know, so one of the things I'm focusing on right now is actually like television sitcoms and the impact that they have on people in society.
Really? Wow, that's actually okay. So what's your favorite sitcom? I gotta hear it.
So what's interesting about like me and favorites is that I change up my favorites like every time someone asks me. But if I were to choose one, right now under the subject, it would change next time. I would say the 1980s sitcom Growing Pains.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I really like 1980s sitcoms.
Okay, so do you like Full House?
Yes, I do. Okay. And
I can get behind that one. I like that one.
Yes, that is definitely one that I am like exploring further, like within my research, specifically. Okay. So yeah, I would definitely say that I am a really big fan of that show, and like it's so interesting, like exploring certain shows
Mm-hmm.
and like I don't know, like the different meanings that are
Mm-hmm.
attached to them.
Yeah, I've never really thought about that. I mean, sitcoms kind of vary based on the like time period they're in, and kind of influence the culture it's in today. I mean, I've just never really thought about the impact that much. I don't think. Hmm, it's interesting.
Yeah, so it really is interesting for me, like going through it and learning more about the
Mm-hmm.
histories and even like some of the behind the scenes corporate histories. Because, like I
Mm-hmm.
said before, I really love history overall, and I
Mm-hmm.
love media studies and research. And so
Mm-hmm.
combining them, I mean, that's just amazing for me.
Well, that's really interesting. Is that what you're kind of working on for like your graduate thesis, or?
Yes, it is
Okay.
actually.
Okay. That sounds like a really fun topic. I think that's really all the questions I have for you, though.
Cool. Like I said, I mean, I always love, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, being able to discuss my research and also
Mm-hmm.
having these amazing conversations here on the show.
Oh, it was an absolute pleasure. I loved it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm so glad, and thank you so much for
Mm-hmm.
coming on.
Oh, it was no problem at all.
Yeah, but before we go ahead and end out, I did want to say for anyone who may want to continue hearing your story,
Mm-hmm.
where are the best places to potentially follow you online?
Of course, you could find me on LinkedIn. Just search my name, Katelyn Meeks. A nice little picture of me will come up, and you could just connect with me. I love connecting with everybody. Another place to follow me is on Twitter, X, whatever we want to call it now at the moment. You can just find me at kmeeks 2002. And a lot of my articles are there from what I write for the paper. A lot of other stuff I do is on there also. Another place to find me that's great is I have a professional Instagram account. Just say username, just kmeeks 2002. Follow my works on there also, and even connect with me if you want. Reach out.
I love that. And last but certainly not least, I did want to say, to truly close out this episode, for anyone who is, still tuning in and watching and listening, what is one piece of advice or a message that you would like to leave, for those who are watching?
I think my biggest piece is struggle. We talked about it earlier, but when you have something hard in front of you, don't think I can't do this, but tell yourself you're going to do it. It's going to be hard and it's going to take time, but it will be worth it. I promise you it will be worth it. Take it from me who has struggled with writing and other problems in other situations. It will all be worth it in the end. And you only benefit from it. If you fail at it, you only benefit and you learn a little bit about yourself in the end.
I love that. Thank you so much, Caitlin, for coming on the show. And I just, like I said, just so enjoyed this discussion.
I also enjoyed it too. Thank you for having me.
Of course, and for those of you watching or listening, thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode. I greatly appreciate it as always. Continue tuning in to the Tansson Talk Show every Saturday, and let's continue on our mission to bring people together. I'll see y'all later. Take care.